What's good, everybody? It's your boy Todd Smith here once again, alongside my partner in crime and my tag team partner Dale Clifford out there in Fernley, Nevada. Welcome to yet another edition of the No Gimmicks podcast. And joining us this week, our special guest, Hoodslam's very own Doc Atrocity. Doc, what is good, my man?
Oh, you know, it's Easter Sunday. I'm here just kind of chilling at home right now. I got a little bit of time before the next Hoodslam show, so figured like it would be a good time to check in with y'all and see what's going on.
Yes, sir. Dale, what is good, my man?
What is up? All right, so I'm not sure how the weather is out there in California. I know that here in the northern Nevada area, we are dealing with some wind and some overcast clouds. It always feels like when we do a show here, the weather is not particularly all that well. So hopefully this interview kind of lightens things up a little bit here.
Yeah, man. We're rainy here.
I was telling Shane, I said it was beautiful early, man. It was looking like a typical Easter Sunday. You know, it was beautiful outside. You know, I was wearing a windbreaker, and that was too much clothes. I could probably went outside, a tank top and some shorts and some flip-flops, and I would have been okay. And then now, I think I heard a few raindrops coming down. So, yeah, you can never predict the weather out here in Connecticut. But enough about the weather. Let's talk about my man, Doc Atrocity here. So, I'm going to go ahead and set it off. You and I have never had the opportunity to meet before, Shane. So, I just kind of want to...
That's crazy.
I know, because we know similar people in the business. You know, we both worked in the same territory, however, we never crossed paths. I find that strange, but we did connect on Facebook. So, I guess social media is good for something, right? So...
Oh, absolutely. I'm a fan.
Yeah, man, I'm becoming a fan now. I hated Facebook for a couple years. I actually left it. I exiled myself from Facebook. But yeah, I'm glad I'm back to promote the No Gimmicks podcast. So we just kind of want to take this time. I want to know a little bit about yourself. What inspired you to join the professional wrestling business? Who trained you, and which company did you get your start in, Shane?
Wow. Well, okay. So it's an interesting story because you know, I'm like anybody else. I grew up a fan. You know, I grew up in the 80s, and so I was a fan of kind of you know, the golden era of the WWF. You know, the you know what everybody remembers before the Attitude Era and all that stuff. You know, the Hulk Hogan's, the Randy Savages, the Roddy Pipers.
Yes, sir.
So I grew up a fan of that, and you know, when I was in high school, I had this idea in my head that, you know, being a professional wrestler was a legitimate career choice. And I was naive, you know. I kind of broke in on a backyard level. My training actually was really I would not recommend to anybody going about getting into the business the way I did, because I kind of I kind of came in through the side fence a little bit, and I started out working for a kind of outlaw backyard kind of promotion that was we were being trained, and it was being run by a guy who did a little bit of wrestling for Woody Farmer. Had a promotion in the late 80s, early 90s called Bay Area Wrestling. Okay. And a guy, Eric Perez, who wrestled for Woody, trained me and a couple of other guys in a boxing ring, not even a wrestling ring, in a boxing ring. So it was very stiff. It took a lot of hard
I bet.
Yeah, and so kind of learned a little bit that way. And then when that kind of fell apart, the rest of the crew I was working with got in touch with Roland Alexander. Okay. All Pro Wrestling at the time was Pacific Coast Sports. It wasn't even All Pro Wrestling yet. It was just Pacific Coast Sports. And we went in, we talked to Roland, and everybody else I was working with could kind of afford to go to school, the Pacific Coast Wrestling School at the time. I could not. I didn't have the money for that. But what I did do is I went with my friends, the rest of my crew. I went with them to practice, and even though I wasn't allowed to, you know, practice and train with everybody, you know, I'll be honest with you, the moment Roland turned his back, I slid in the ring and did whatever I got the opportunity to do and take bumps. And I think after just being around for a while, and people seeing, you know, when I, you know, this guy, you know, he can take a bump and he kind of understands a little bit of the business. They just kind of eventually they're like, he's not going anywhere, so we might as well, smarten him up a little bit and utilize him in some capacity. So they started utilizing me as I got a pretty good speaking presence about myself. So they started using me as a ring announcer originally.
Oh, okay.
And at some Gym Wars shows, and because I was replacing announcer Ron Head, who was particularly popular with the regular fans at the time, I just drew a lot of heel heat off of the fans.
Okay.
As an announcer, which you're not supposed to do. Announcer's not supposed to draw heel heat.
Right.
He's supposed to be kind of neutral. And through that, they were like, well, this kid's drawing heat, even though all he's doing is announcing people. So they attached me as a heel manager with originally Max Justice, Mike Diamond, big guy. He was in Beyond the Mat, Barry Blaustein. He was a guy who kind of went in the chair, swinging rampage in the parking lot. I was managing him when that happened. And I had like a 4-year run managing with APW, occasionally working matches under a hood as like an enhancement talent. Kind of doing the Steve Lombardi thing, where like I was there as a worker if they needed me to job out to somebody. I was managing, whoever they needed me to do. And I was also putting together the souvenir programs for all of APW shows.
Okay.
So because I was doing all these different jobs at the time, believe it or not, and I had an agreement with Roland Alexander for like 4 years where I was not allowed to disclose with anybody, but I was actually one of the highest paid guys in APW for about 4 years because of the amount of stuff I was doing. I was making probably twice as much money as anybody else because I was, making the souvenir programs and T-shirt designs and all this other stuff. And while I was doing that, I was also, working, taking other bookings for smaller independent companies, and in particular, Incredibly Strange Wrestling out of San Francisco. And so I was living a kind of double life. I was working legitimately for All Pro Wrestling, which was more of a kind of traditional pro wrestling promotion, and then I had this kind of second life as a competitor for ISW, which was a completely different universe.
Yes, sir. And we're going to ask you a little bit more about that here in about a question or so. I got something I want to throw out real quick, and I'm going to toss over to Dale so he could ask you to our the next question. I'm curious. You have mentioned Bay Area wrestling. By some chance, the dude who you had mentioned, I think you said his last name was Perez, was he the guy who was the diabolical Spanish hitman? Dude, I remember that. Like I told you, I'm from the Bay Area. I'm from San Fran originally, and my grandparents lived up there, and we used to get those shows on probably like some local access channel. I remember that. They were in a real small venue where you barely had any space between the ring and the wall, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There was like one row of fans, and it was just a little, they did this little weekly cable thing. But yeah, he was a Spanish hitman, and that was my original training. After that, I managed to glom on stuff from people like Michael Modest and later on Mustafa Saeed was one of the biggest influence in my guys. And that guy is incredible. He is such an unappreciated wealth of knowledge.
Good guy, too.
Such a just awesome dude. Awesome dude.
Yeah, I had the chance to meet him at some RWF shows. He's a big brother, too. So now I'm gonna let Dale get in a question. So Dale, what you got for my man Doc Atrocity here?
Well, speaking of the Reno Russell Factory, 3 of the guys that head that up are members of the Reno Scum, which you also were a founding original member of, known as the Devil's Left Hand. So it's like we were just kind of curious. You guys invaded Brawl, ran roughshod over the indie scene in Cali, and now we're seeing Adam and Luster on a weekly basis for Impact Wrestling. So we were kind of just curious as what was it like to be a part of this stable?
Well, I mean, I can't, first of all, how proud I am of both Adam and Luster for what they're doing. Those two guys have worked harder and are more dedicated to their careers as professional wrestlers than almost anybody else I've ever met in this business. what they've achieved, they have, without a shadow of a doubt, they've paid their dues for that. They've earned everything that they have right now. And I'm just so proud to see them every week when I watch them on TV, because they're both like brothers to me. You know, we traveled all up the left coast together, and you know, did a bunch of stuff. They're both still really close friends of mine. The Reno Scum started out as kind of a faction originally, a kind of multi-man army essentially, where our whole goal was we were just going to go to different Northern California indie companies and just literally take over.
Yeah, just kill them all.
Yeah, just roll in there, take out anybody who stood in our way, and then, you know, just we called the shots, and we did it in Brawl. That was one place where we absolutely took over that whole company. We did it in APW. There was a month-long period where I went back to APW with the Reno Scum, and we took every title they had at the time, and we wiped out everybody. And that was what we were. We were kind of this invading force. We were almost like a Mongolian horde that was just rolling across the countryside and just taking out whatever we wanted. And after a while, that evolved into, you know, our two prominent members, which were Adam and Luster. Those two guys are the most athletic. They're just looking at them, they have the most presentation-wise appeal. Them working as a tag team. And that's when they really established themselves, just the two of them working together. It's, in a lot of the ways, it's like the Legion of Doom. You know, when the Legion of Doom started out with Paul Ellering, it was King Kong Bundy and Jake the Snake Roberts and the Mass, you know, all these Mass Superstar and all these other guys. But over time, it came down to Hawk and Animal because they were the guys, you know, and that's the way I look at the Reno Scum.
Okay. Yeah, one of them dudes who you probably remember, Otis the Gimp, Lance. That dude and I, we had a match, man. He's good people. I'll tell you what, man. Lance is one of the most patient guys and whatnot, but god dang, man, that dude beat the hell out of me in the match that we had up there in Reno, man. Yeah, and he throws them forearms like Jinder Mahal threw that forearm at Finn. Man, he hit me with one of those so hard, I didn't eat right for about a couple of weeks because my jaw was misaligned, bro. If you out there listening to this, Lance, yeah, man, good people, man. And I'm telling you, like I said, he was working his mother truck in Otis for a company out there at the time. I was the hired gun. Yeah, we had this match. It was called a Silver State Slugfest or something like that. And yeah, we beat the hell out of each other all around the arena. It was fun, man.
Well, you lucked out. You lucked out because it was the mother trucking Otis. You know, if you ever had the bad luck to work the Gimp gimmick, there was a very good chance you were going to get your oil checked and find a little thumb up the bum, if you will.
I'm glad I didn't get that. I think he put his bum somewhere else on me. I think it was right in my face, almost like the stink face that Rikishi does. I had the pleasure of taking that, but yeah, man, definitely shout out to Otis there, man. So, kind of getting back.
Yeah, Lance Bermuda is absolutely one of the best people in the business.
Yeah,
just a good human being.
I gotta hit him up because I know he's on my Facebook page. He's one of many people I gotta hit up one of these days and catch up with him. So you had kind of touched upon your time in Incredibly Strange Wrestling. Now you worked in Incredibly Strange Wrestling as El Gran Fangoria, I believe.
Yes, I did.
Okay,
yes.
So I know nothing about that gimmick. So a lot of people probably aren't too familiar with that promotion to begin with. So kind of give both us and our viewers, you know, kind of a brief explanation, or I guess a lengthy one if you like, about what ISW was about and why it has the cult following that it does.
Well, first of all, ISW stood for Incredibly Strange Wrestling, and it started out as a kind of very underground, punk rock-oriented, lucha libre-inspired promotion out of San Francisco and it was the majority of competitors there were either indie luchadors that they were bringing up local, or they were local guys who, you know, maybe had a little bit of training. Sometimes they didn't really have a lot of training at all, and they were to the competition side of it. It got really popular really quickly in the area and outside the Bay Area because it was it took an approach that I refer to it as meta wrestling, in that it's like self-aware. It kind of is kind of absurdity of professional wrestling by its very nature, and rather than kind of ignore it, it acknowledges that.
Okay.
Very humor oriented, very kind of, hip. It's a little hip. It basically everything that from Chikara to Lucha Underground to the Broken Hardy promos and stuff like that. All this kind of is kind of not taking itself overly serious and really getting fantastic with it. I agree with that 25 years ago, before anybody else even thought about it. We were so outlaw. Everybody else in the wrestling community hated us for it because this was a time to maintain kayfabe, and they thought that anything that was particularly outlandish was breaking kayfabe and for the business.
Yeah.
Even though ISW was drawing like 1,500 people.
Wow.
At the Fillmore, the world famous Fillmore in San Francisco. No indie in Northern California or California at all was drawing anything close to that at the time.
Right.
And yet we were still maligned because we weren't, quote unquote, taking it seriously. Which is funny because I've made my whole career has been based on not taking professional wrestling too seriously.
Yeah. And
that's why I'm part of Hoodslam.
Yeah, hey, and you know what? That's the perfect segue into our next question. So Dale, go ahead and take that one and ask Shane about Hoodslam.
Well, obviously, you brought it up. You're one of the four going members of Hoodslam as Doc Atrocity. So kind of explain the difference between being Doc Atrocity as to being the persona of Shane Dynasty and what your role is with the company.
Well, I didn't really start out with Hoodslam. They were for a good 6 months before, believe it or not, Lance Bermuda, Mother Truck and Otis was the first guy who got me there because he had worked with me in ISW in some of the final days of Incredibly Strange Wrestling, and then I had retired for about 2 years, and I wasn't actively wrestling at all. I was just focusing on my tattooing career, and he was doing these little shows out of Oakland, out of a warehouse. They were just free little shows, and he kept going, man, you're gonna love this. This is so right up your alley. It's like ISW, but it's different. It's more local, and it's kind of. And I kind of like, yeah, whatever, man. And then he talked me into going to one of their shows, and it was like the second show that they were actually doing at a paid venue at the Oakland Metro.
Okay.
And I went to one show, and I was just blown away. I was like completely blown away because it was everything I loved about ISW, but like so much more, so much more beyond that. It was as I've described it, it was the evolution step after Incredibly Strange Wrestling. And once I was hooked, and you couldn't keep me away from that place. And he only performer, but luckily Dark Sheik, he was the ultimate master play. He was open enough to let me be involved in part of the creative aspects of it, writing storylines, creating a lot of the gimmicks that we had going on, and just Hoodslam honestly rejuvenated my love for professional wrestling.
Cool.
And Doc Atrocity is, in a lot of ways, it's Shane Dynasty. If Shane Dynasty was a cartoon character and the volume was cranked up to 20.
And if he was a fan of Dr. Octagon too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Dr. Octagon is I mean, that's one of, there's a handful of guys who influenced the Doc Atrocity character, and obviously Dr. Octagon's up there, Skeletor's up there real high on the list. There's a little Joker, a little Dr. Doom, but he's a villain. He's really just like an iconic comic book bad guy villain. Okay, and therefore he's kind of a big chicken at heart, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I gotta ask you this. You and I had this conversation on Facebook. Now, you said that you were a fan of Cool Keith, right? I mean, and like his different personas. Cool Keith is this guy. He spent time, I guess, apparently in a mental hospital for a while. He was also one of the, founding fathers of hip hop as a member of the Ultramagnetic MCs. But this dude has been Black Elvis. I mean, he's been Dr. Doom. He's been Dr. Octagon. I mean, he's had so many different personas. Keith Korg,
And that's what I love about him is that my career has been that way too. Is that I've been Shane Dynasty, I've been El Gran Fangorio, I've been Doc Atrocity, and there's quite a few other ones besides that I don't even have time to go into. And I can relate to that because there's a very kind of schizophrenic aspect to my performance personality, and I definitely feel like Cool Keith has got the same kind of thing on. I had the pleasure to, when I was wrestling for ISW, I was part of the 2001 tour. And Cool Keith was actually on like the tour with us. So I got to kind of hang out with it. Yeah, it was really cool because, they were supposed to be on the whole tour. It was for 3 weeks because there was actually really kind of lame situation happened where Tahoe, I don't know if you know. Do you remember Eminem's crew D12?
Yeah, D12, the ones who had the different personas as well, right? Like it was Bizarre and like Conniva and Con Artist and all them dudes. Yeah.
Yeah, so they were on this show too that we had up in Tahoe, and they were like coming on the tour at the end, and it was really unfortunate, man, because like the first day that both of those acts were on the tour at the same time, there was like a bunch of beef, and they got into it, and like so everybody kind of got like booted off the tour after that, and that was lame because like I was super stoked to be on tour with this guy and get this opportunity to like kind of talk and just hang out with him like a person every day, you know.
Yeah.
There were a lot of bands like that, like the guys from Rancid. They were there every single day, and when they weren't performing, they were coming and watching wrestling. So it was just kind of like it sucked because like first couple of weeks got to hang out with this guy, and then boom, he was gone.
Right.
But still, incredible experience.
That dude Lance, his name is Lance, right? That's the dude from Rancid. He was at
Lars Henrik.
It was Lars. Yeah, he was at the show with Lance up there in Tahoe, that State Line Throwdown show, and I got to meet him. I remember he actually, as he was walking Lance out to the ring, I think Lance was working a gimmick where he was called the Millwall Brawl, and he worked under a mask. He kind of came up to me and he took his cane and shoved it in my chest, and he kind of punked me out a little bit. So I remember that dude from that show was about maybe like
good people.
Pretty much about probably around 2010, I think. Yeah, he seemed like a cool guy. But
yeah, he just gets into the character. Some of those guys, they get into that character, and you start going. And funny story is, my first time I ever met Lance Bermuda was before he was even wrestling, and I was doing a show down in Sacramento where I was working as somebody's bodyguard, El Flaco Loco, and he was working behind the concession stand.
Uh-huh.
And I started kind of bullying up on him a little bit. And he thought I was shooting on him, and he kind of puffed up and stood up in my face, and we kind of had a little stare down. So it happens, you get to those points where like I'm playing a character, and then you don't want to be the punk, and then so we got to like go toe to toe, and sometimes the best friendships come out of that.
Yeah, because he was totally cool, and I actually got to talk to him a little bit after the show. Like I said, hey, it's one of them things where I knew what it was, man. I knew what it was.
Right.
So.
Right.
Another question for you here, Doc. We're curious, because you do a lot of tattoos. You're the owner and operator of Utopia Tattoo. So it's a 3-part question for you. Basically, what is your favorite personal tattoo that you have and why?
Oh, God. I mean, man, my favorite, I got to say, I have 2 super fans. Two great guys who, and I'm so out there, but both of them have Doc Atrocity tattoos on them.
Oh, okay, cool. Let's see what else I have here for you. What is the most painful tattoo that you've had either done, I guess, for yourself or to someone else?
Oh man, that you're totally putting me on the spot right there. That's a hard one. I don't know if I could even pull that one out on the top of my head.
I mean, because I know some of those tattoos take a long time to have done, man. You got to be patient. You just got to lay there as a needle is just constantly jabbing you.
I mean, the longest I've ever for is like 5.5 hours, and 100%. Like, yeah, I was in tears by the end of that.
Jesus Christ!
It's
Easter Sunday.
After 5.5 hours of that. Yeah, no, it's rough. I don't have the pain level that I used to have, and that not only applies to getting tattooed, but it also applies to the things that I'm doing.
Right.
I used to be pretty, you want me to throw myself through a table? Cool. You want me to fall off of that? Cool. No problem. Nowadays, I'm like, nah, find somebody else to do that.
Discretion's the better part of valor.
Now. Yeah, I'm 44 years old, and after literally being when I was 19 years old, so I've been wrestling for 20 years in Northern California, and it takes its toll on the body at that particular point. And like you said, like sometimes you just got to go like, hey man, I don't need to be doing all this stuff anymore. Yeah. I like to think that I work smart, not hard now.
Right. There you go.
I'm not trying to break my butt, but I'm definitely trying to put on a good show.
Yeah, you've seen the Danny Glover or seen Lethal Weapon, what Danny Glover had to say. Man, I'm too old.
I'm getting way too old for this shit. Yeah.
So
it's true.
The last part I have for you for the tats questions is, have you had the opportunity to give any celebrities a tattoo?
Celebrities, no, not any like real celebrities. Like a couple of guys in like bands. Nothing super big. I'd say the biggest celebrities that I've gotten to tattoo are professional wrestlers. You see Adam Thornstowe out there, every week on Impact, and like 90% of the tattoo work on his body I put on him.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, 90%. Like there's a handful of things that I didn't do, but almost everything you see on him I did. I did quite a bit of work on Legend, like the side of his head. The logo that you see on that big screen every week on Impact. That's my logo. I'm so stoked to see that.
Yeah.
And then I gave Mustafa Saeed his first tattoo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He had
no
on him, and then he came into a shop I was working at a couple of years ago, and we did some work. And I can't say how much I love that man enough. He's like the closest thing to a father figure I have in this business.
Good stuff, man. That's good that you and Mustafa have a good brother-like relationship, or father-like.
He's my guy. Well, that's the thing is that he's always, I grew up watching, the gangsters. I was a huge fan of ECW. ECW was one of the promotions that really inspired me. And so I grew up watching him. And then when I got the opportunity to work with him and work in the same company with me, the thing about Jamal is he's always treated me as an equal. Yeah. And I never felt like I was his equal because he was at this higher level than I was, but he always treated me like we were on the completely same wavelength. And coming from somebody who is that, a veteran with that level of status to treat you like you're on the same level that he is, I mean, that means a lot of.
Yeah, that speaks volumes of his character, definitely. So we've got a couple questions for you from some of our guys from over there on Facebook. So I'm gonna go ahead and let Dale handle these. So Dale, what you got for Doc Atrocity here?
All right. So our first fan Facebook question comes from Kyle Grissom, who wants to know what's your favorite horror movie of the 1980s.
Oh, I couldn't pick one. I could give you a handful. Reanimator is one of my absolute favorites. Return of the Living Dead. Return of the Living Dead's really high up there.
Love that.
Texas Chainsaw. Basically, what I love about 80s horror movies is I particularly like the really kind of pretty gruesome horror movies that have a great sense of humor as well, and not like a goofy sense of humor, but a kind of dark, grim sense of humor. I think that's something that's lost in a lot of horror movies these days.
Yeah.
And like the movies I referenced, like Return of the Living Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Reanimator, those movies were hilarious.
Hey, wait, so Return of the Living Dead, was that the one? Send more cops.
Send more paramedics. Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah,
man.
that's a great
The
movie.
zombies sit there telling them
And
to
it
send
has-
more so they can eat them when and ambush them and eat them when they came in. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was great too because
Yeah.
they changed the whole zombie motif because in like every zombie movie before then and even now, like you watch like The Walking Dead, they have that whole thing where like if you shoot it in the brain, it's dead.
Right.
And in Return of the Living Dead, like you just couldn't kill these things. You'd chop them up into pieces, and the pieces would be flopping around.
The arms and the hands.
And I always
stuff.
thought that made more sense to me. I think you're going to stay reanimated. You know what I mean? So that appealed to me as well. And not to mention, you had that wonderful scene of nude Linnea Quigley dancing provocatively on a gravestone.
Woo! You talk about wet dream for a teenage boy back in the 80s.
Tell me about
she was
it, brother.
something else. Yeah, I'm telling you. Yeah, that
right?
was hot.
Yeah, I hear you. So those would probably be my favorite.
All right, right on. So,
Alrighty. All right, let's head up. The second question will come from Adam Miscoro. Hopefully, I don't know if I said the last name right there. This one's kind of different. So, since you are able to open gateways to other dimensions, have you been to any of them? And if so, what's the most fascinating?
We had a long-running storyline in Hoodslam where Doc Atrocity had a time machine and was able to travel through time. And it was revealed during I was put on trial, and it was revealed during the trial that I, in fact, did not have a time machine. I came clean, admitted I did not have a time machine. But there was a swerve to that because later on down the line we revealed that it was not, in fact, a time machine, but that I came in possession and had invented myself a dimensional portal, which gave me the opportunity to jump from timeline to timeline on a multiverse kind of level. And that continues to be the case. I do travel through the dimensions. I've been quite a few of them. My particular favorite one, I would have to say, would be the Hoodslam universe. The Hoodslam universe. Yeah, Hoodslam universe is a once a year, right around Halloween. Hoodslam kind of takes a back seat to an alternate universe called Bloodslam, where many of the performers that are regulars at Hoodslam have kind of other dimension versions of themselves, have completely roles and completely different storylines. Essentially, every year, Bloodslam is a live-action horror movie that takes place in a wrestling ring.
Okay.
And because of the traveling from dimension to dimension, Doc Atrocity is in fact the only character that exists in both the Hoodslam timeline and the Bloodslam timeline. So I'd have to say that's probably my favorite dimension.
that sounds very interesting. Now, I have never had the privilege of actually making it to a Hoodslam show, but after hearing all this crazy stuff, man, you're talking, when I get back out to the West Coast, I'm going to make it a priority. I got to come see y'all, man. You and our man AJ Kirsch, who's part of the No Gimmicks podcast team. He does a lot of social media promotions for us. He's Brosev, Joe Brody, and I see y'all doing Ken and Ryu and Sub-Zero and who else have I seen out there? All kinds of crazy characters. Cammy from Street Fighter. So yeah, I got to come out there and check y'all out one of these times, man.
Oh, we got Rick Scott and Scott Rick, the Stoner Brothers. We've got El Chupacabra, the Dark Sheik. Yeah, we got a whole crew out there. So yeah, when you get a chance, come on out.
Most definitely, man. So, you know, you spend a lot of time in this business as both a manager and a commentator. And of course, one of those strong skills that you have, you know, in your repertoire is delivering promos. So, since we have you here and all, Mr. Doc Atrocity, we're going to put you on the spot. So, we're going to have you do a promo for us. And the top of this promo, I think, is fitting since we have the theme of today, with it being Easter Sunday and all. We're going to have you give a promo on the holiday of Easter Sunday. So, whenever you're ready there, Diabolical One, lay it on us.
Easter Sunday. Sunday, 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 bloody Sunday. Just another day for Doc Atrocity, a man of science who doesn't resort to fairy tales and fables about bunny rabbits and painted eggs. You see, I am a man of logic. I am a man who deals only in absolutes and not fantasies. I mean, you have to understand that I am capable of dimensionally jumping from one universe to another, and you expect me to sit around and exchange eggs and candy in baskets with children. That's not me. That's not what I do. I am busy. There are things I have to take care of, building cyborgs, reconfiguring civilization as we know it in my own image. I don't have time for these petty distractions. So that's how I feel about Easter Sunday.
I like it, Shane. I like it, brother. Good stuff, man. And you know what? Hey, we've kept you long enough here, so I'm going to go ahead and throw it to Dale one more time here, and he's going to kind of help us wrap things up. Dale, what you got for Shane?
All right, so Shane, we appreciate you coming on the show here and letting us know a little bit more about you. So at this time, we're going to kind of leave it up to you to promote what you got coming up in terms of business, any shows, whatever you want to let us into what's coming up on the future. Go ahead and do that right now. The floor is yours.
Very much. I want to say thank you to you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it. As far as shows go, there's Hoodslam is the first Friday of every month in Oakland, California at the Oakland Metro, and Doc Atrocity is definitely an integral player in the game over there. It's a 21 and over event. It's very, we say don't bring your effing kids. But if you want to see Doc Atrocity, that's where you're going to do it. There's a big show going on. I know that All Pro Wrestling is running a big show at the Cow Palace the 1st of next month. And Adam versus Legend is the main event on the card for the APW Universal Heavyweight title. And I don't want to reveal anything or even start any rumors, but I can honestly say that I've been contacted by both Adam and Luster about being part of that event in some capacity or another. And although I can't confirm nor deny that will be the case, the big APW Cow Palace show is going to have a lot of big names on it, and whether Shane Dynasty is going to be a part of that or not remains to be seen. Okay. Beyond that, Utopia Tattoo up in Auburn, California. We're open 7 days a week. If you're in the area, please give us a call. Our number is 530-823-8288. We're available for appointments or walk-ins. Always looking forward to meeting new clients and getting them in the chair and creating some cool art for them.
Any Facebook links, Twitter links, or anything you want to share?
Oh, you can find me on Facebook at Shane Doc Atrocity, and my Instagram account is it's kind of just like a stream of consciousness comic book more than anything else. I'm on Doc Atrocity on that one too, and by all means, feel free to follow.
Shane Doc Atrocity, it has been a pleasure, my man. Hey, we could sit here and we could talk about wrestling all night, but unfortunately, this is all the time we have. We hope we could have you on once again, man. This has really been good having the opportunity to get to know you a little bit. So,
thanks a lot, guys.
Hey, brother, the pleasure is all ours. The pleasure is all ours. Let me try that again here. So, for my man Dale Clifford out there in Fernley, Nevada, and for our special guest this week, Mr. Shane Doc Atrocity out there in Cali, we are no gimmicks, no image, all wrestling, all the time. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the No Gimmicks Podcast.